Have you ever wondered why bad people often seem to get away with their actions, and good people often face terrible adversities? Have you ever suspected that the meaning we attribute to life or certain aspects of it might simply be an illusion, in other words, a human creation, just to make the mystery of existence more bearable? Is there a divine plan behind all this? Is there a life after death, and our time here in this world is just a preparation for it? Or could it be that life is completely meaningless? That the universe is irrational and indifferent towards us, and that humanity is nothing more than a cosmic joke? The French Algerian philosopher Albert Camus believed that life has no inherent meaning and is therefore absurd in some way. This could be a cause for despair, leading us to end our own lives. But Camus claimed that a meaningless universe is actually an opportunity to free ourselves from the chains of hope and experience existence more fully. The Danish philosopher Kierkegaard longed for a purpose to live and die for as well. He struggled with the fact that much of existence cannot be explained rationally, so we have to find something outside ourselves to hold on to, something that will give us clarity and guidance in the face of the unknown. He discovered that religion is the answer, and that we should take a leap of faith by embracing this higher purpose as the ultimate meaning of life. Even though there is no solid evidence for its validity, such an embrace may solve the problem and put an end to our existential angst, but it comes with a price. Philosophical suicide is what Albert Camus called the solution of faith. Camus had a quite different approach to the uncertainty of existence. He recognized that reason has its limits, and that what is beyond our understanding is truly inscrutable. He also believed that life is meaningless, and that all the forms of meaning we give it are nothing more than constructions of the human mind. There is no proof that the universe has a meaning that transcends it, and if it does, we simply do not know it. As he states in his philosophical essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, "I don't know if this world has a meaning that transcends it, but I know that I don't know that meaning, and that it is impossible for me to know it at this moment. What can a meaning mean outside of my condition? I can only understand in human terms." So, Camus concluded that the only honest observation we can make about the world is that it is meaningless. There are no universal values, no divine plan, and everything happens at random. Therefore, life is absurd. But what did Camus mean by absurd? Did he mean that we humans are absurd beings, or that the world around us is absurd in itself? Well, he really didn't want to separate the two. The dilemma we face as humans is that we are rational beings with a strong desire to create order, clarity, and meaning to life, while we are part of an irrational and indifferent universe. The response of this universe to the human cry for meaning is nothing but silence. This confrontation is what Camus called the absurd. The absurd is the fact that we keep trying to do something with this universe, to understand the enigma, to make sense of its ways. But as soon as we think we have understood it, it slips through our fingers like water. The realization that we are a group of primates living on a rock in an endless universe, indifferent to us, and that after 100 years our lives will be forgotten, could drive someone to despair. When we observe the repetitiveness of our lives and the culturally accepted path we are all expected to follow from birth to the grave, we might start to wonder, what is the point of all this? It is then when one realizes the absurdity of it all. As Camus stated, get up tram, 4 hours in the office or factory, lunch tram, 4 hours of work, lunch, sleep, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, according to the same rhythm. This path is easily followed most of the time, but one day the why arises and everything begins in that fatigue tinged with wonder. Trying to find rational explanations for these questions in an irrational and indifferent world is absurd, and according to Camus, the absurd cannot be denied. This means we can react to it in two ways. We can live it, or we can escape from it. Many intelligent people have exploited this human tendency to crave meaning by creating predefined answers to satisfy any philosophical and existential question, and using them as tools of control. These answers can take the form of religion, but there are also secular substitutes that attribute meaning to existence. For example, the Nazi belief in a master race destined to rule over all other races, or the sacralization of national identity that turns the act of serving one's country into an ultimate concern. The belief in karma is another example, which is not always valid when we see that many bad people get away with it and live happily, while many good people face misfortune. The problem with all these approaches is that we leave our rationality aside and choose to believe in things that lack proof and rational explanations, or even go against our own experiences. Camus therefore called this philosophical suicide, which is simply a way of escaping the absurd by replacing the uncertainty of existence with a set of man-made beliefs. A more direct approach to escaping the absurd is the act of physical suicide. According to Camus, it is the only really serious philosophical problem. But the issue with this approach is that we basically succumb to the absurd by admitting that the confrontation with meaninglessness and experiences of hopelessness are too much for us. Now, to not fall into one of these traps and live life in spite of its absurdity, we must ask ourselves the following question: is a life without hope, in a universe without a meaning that transcends it, necessarily incorrect? According to Camus, it is not. In fact, a world without meaning is an opportunity to let go of all illusions of meaning so that raw reality comes to the surface. Instead of despairing about it, we can choose to see the positive side. When there is no final judgment and no afterlife, it means we can focus completely on this life. When there are no transcendent morals and values, it means we can create our own. When our time on earth is limited, along with our perception and knowledge of it, we could make the most of it and enjoy a good cup of coffee. Camus believed that we should not simply accept the absurd, but that we should rebel against it. Because even though we are powerless and ignorant in the face of the bigger picture, we do have control over our faculties. The only way to be free in the lack of freedom is through rebellion, fully using the power we have, the power of thought and action. According to Camus, the absurd hero lives life to the fullest in the face of the absurd. Despite the invitation of death, he will not put an end to his own life, whether philosophical or physical. Even if this means a life of despair, he chooses despair. Living a life absurd means indifference to the future, rejection of hope, and a lucid experience of what is happening in the moment. Camus said, therefore what he demands of himself is to live only with what he knows, to accommodate himself to what is, and not introduce anything that is not certain. They tell him that nothing is. But at least that is a certainty, and it is with this that he is concerned about wanting to find out if it is possible to live without appeal. Living without appeal means living in the present moment with full awareness of the absurd and not wanting anything more than a conceptual future. To imagine what it is like to live without appeal, Camus pointed to the Greek mythological character Sisyphus, who was the founder and king of Ephyra, and also a rather deceitful person. He made the mistake of defying the gods and was punished for it. Condemned to push a rock up a hill that rolled back every time it approached the top, he was forced to repeat this process for eternity. Sisyphus's existence is so meaningless and hopeless that trying to give any meaning to his repetitive action is totally absurd. Curiously, here is the key. To live without appeal means that it is not necessary for our actions to lead to something better in the future. The meaning lies in the act itself, which is enough to be satisfied in a life without hope. The gods base Sisyphus's punishment on the idea that there is nothing more frightening than endless and futile work. But this simply depends on the position we take towards it. Then, what if we imagine Sisyphus happy? What if one finds joy in despair and refuses to bow to the misery that life throws at us? To finish, I quote Camus, "The understanding that life is absurd cannot be an end, but a beginning.